With the release of the newest Planet of the Apes movie, I figured it would be the perfect time to stop and rank all of the 10 movies in this franchise from the worst to the best. Let's get started.
And here we go.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben, and on this channel I love to talk about movies and TV, and if you also love to talk about movies and TV, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. As we get into the video, be sure to let me know your ranking down below in the comments, whether you've seen only the newer movies, the older ones, whatever it is, leave whatever ranking you have down below. For a little bit of context, by no means did I grow up loving the Planet of the Apes movies. I have no real connection to the older films. I've seen the newer trilogy a handful of times. I might have some hot takes on here, but let's get started. In last place, I have Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which was an easy pick for number 10. Not to say that I loved the original Planet of the Apes, which we'll get to in a little bit, but there's a big drop-off in quality to the second movie. It's super slow. I was 45 minutes into the movie, and it felt like nothing had really happened. And it just gets overly weird with like 40 minutes left. There's telepathy involved. I'm convinced that the writers might have been on some drugs writing it. The effects are dated with an abundance of fire and explosions. It forcefully integrates religion into it all, and at times it felt like the apes themselves were just an afterthought. It's a boring watch as a whole. I was honestly confused because I just got to a point where I didn't even know what I was watching, and the ending is terribly anticlimactic. Bring us into number 9, which is Battle for the Planet of the Apes. It starts with an unnecessary recap by an ape narrator of the past 2 movies. This is just not an engaging movie, not an intense watch. I think if they wanted Aldo to be this real big threat, they desperately needed to have introduced him earlier on in the series. It feels as though the story here is just rushed. I suppose seeing the apes rise together to fight the humans in the final battle is cool enough, but you don't really feel anything watching it because the lead up to it is dull. And unfortunately with this ending, this series of films goes out with such a whimper. Next up is Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which is annoyingly silly sometimes, but dark otherwise. As a whole for these 5 movies, I didn't find much to be interesting or entertaining to watch. And that's exactly the case with this one. It's just a bore. I will say though, one of the things that I did find interesting about this movie is that it's basically a precursor to Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It shows the uprising and how the apes took control. But there's just no real emotional weight, which is something that the newer trilogy did such a good job at really just adding on to the story there. It barely builds tension. In fact, I couldn't even see what was going on in the final battle because you can't see anything because the lighting is so bad. I think the final few minutes are effective enough, but there's just not much here, unfortunately. Next up is the Planet of the Apes movie from 2001, which I feel is a little overhated, but it's not a great movie by any means. The most interesting thing about the movie is that I thought it was funny to see Paul Giamatti as an unrecognizable ape. He's clearly having a good time, and I think that the score is strong enough. But as a whole, this is just pretty dull. Like, nothing is as disastrous as I feel like I was led to believe. Some people call this one of the worst movies of all time. Maybe I was a little bit lighter on it because I was expecting something so bad. But the production, costumes, makeup, all really solid. But the writing is just lazy. There's nothing to chew on. The visual effects are very dated. However, I will give the movie this. The ending is bold, and I can respect when an ending is bold. Clearly sets up a sequel that we didn't get, and I don't think anyone's really complaining about that, but it was interesting to see. Coming in at number 6 is the newly released Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which if you want to hear my full thoughts on, I'll leave my review linked right up above. I know it does seem like I am in the minority on this one. I think I just came out very disappointed. The idea that, oh, it's just the first movie in a new trilogy, so there's a lot of setup. There have been plenty of movies that have been the first in a trilogy that have done a great job at that, succeeded. This movie does not fall into that category. I was bored throughout. The characters are extremely unmemorable, and when you go from Caesar to Noah, he doesn't hold a candle to Caesar. It's too long. I felt the length. It felt like hours long. The best thing I can say about it is that it looks great visually. But with these newer movies, it kind of feels like something you just walk in knowing that you're going to get. I don't really care to see a follow-up, but maybe something about it will intrigue me. We'll see. Breaking us into our top 5 is the original Planet of the Apes. The one that started it all. I know many hold this in high regard. They claim it to be, honestly, one of the best movies ever, which I clearly don't fall into that camp, but more power to you. I think one of the things that I appreciated the most is that it captures this large landscape beautifully. There are some just really nice shots. A couple of the follow-up movies did this, but it was interesting to see an already established Planet of the Apes, not one with the newer trilogy where you see the rise of them, and how similar that world is to ours. There are some underlying themes of race. It's not really at the forefront, which honestly I think is good, just so it's not bashing you over the head with its messaging. I went in a little bit hesitant starting this series of the older films because I didn't know if I was going to appreciate the character designs, because these newer ones are just all CGI, but the makeup is effective and solid. But overall, I just didn't find this particularly compelling. You feel the length, it's a slower movie, the characters are very basic and leave more to be desired. There's some incredibly dated shots utilized, which I understand that's just a nitpick nowadays, with the off-putting zoom-ins, and Nova as a character basically serves zero purpose, but she just gets carried around for whatever reason. I bet that twist ending was pretty crazy in 1968. I did know of it going into the movie, so it wasn't like really stunning for me. And I don't even think that this is the best of the original bunch, which is number 4, Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I was most intrigued by the political drama between human and apes here. I think it did the best job at capturing that as a whole for these 5 movies. It explores the ape lore, and honestly it kind of feels like a comedy at times, where the apes become celebrities and are exploring the human world. It does have a tonal issue where there are some moments that feel sitcom-y. Overall, it does work and it does feel like a drama. Specifically here, the movie's opening is similar to the portion of Rise where Caesar is being tested, and then that continues throughout the movie where they're being treated as less than. As cringy as the ending was, I think the editing is a little bit cheesy. I do feel like it leaves you on an intriguing enough cliffhanger to make you eager enough to watch another one. Not bad, but not great. Bringing us into our top 3 is Rise of the Planet of the Apes, a very solid introduction to the newer films. It's funny, for the longest time I always found this movie to be too surface level, too predictable. I think that is the common complaint with the film amongst most viewers. But after watching all of the other previous Planet of the Apes movies, I think I just gained a newfound appreciation for this one because it kept me intrigued throughout the entire runtime. And I realized how strong of a setup this was for the movies to come, and the little things placed here and there that would pay off later. One of the best parts about the story here is that it just does such a good job at making you care for Caesar right from the start. This movie actually builds relationships amongst the characters, which of course allows the movie to have stronger stakes, and you feel how intense the finale is. As an audience member, you can't help but just sympathize with Caesar and what he's going through. The mocap is just incredible. It's a movie that is 13 years old, and it still looks better than some of the things we're getting today. I was surprised to see on rewatch how good of a pace this moves at. It's easy to see where the story is going to go, but I still think it's an enjoyable movie. Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, that finale is just so good. And this was a smart way to reboot this franchise. Make things fresh, keep it entertaining, and get us hooked for a follow-up, which outdid this one. Which is my number 2, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I know many people have this at number 1. When going from Rise to immediately watching Dawn, the tone there's an incredible shift. It's much darker here. It's somber, you feel the weight of it. Even visually, the movie just looks gray and darker. Dawn is much more of a slow burn, which I feel like that's the main thing that holds it back from the number 1 spot. But this is a stunning visual achievement. Some of the shots in here you can just frame, put them on a wall, and it would just look insanely good. It shows the beauty of 2 species coming together in unity to fight off against evil. You truly feel the emotional weight as an audience member. I think just after watching it now, after the events of 2020, it feels eerily timely. It's a bit too slow for my liking, like I said, but this has a thrilling finale, and it's just a great film. But coming in at number 1 is actually one of my favorite movies, War for the Planet of the Apes. I remember watching this movie for the first time in 2022 and just being absolutely blown away. This is, in my opinion, a 5-star movie. Incredibly bleak, and that's honestly one of the big things that I love about it. It doesn't hold back. It shows the rawness of war, yes. And it just feels like gut punch after gut punch. You're watching Caesar go through the absolute ringer, and you're right there with him on this emotional journey. I don't think it's crazy to say that he is one of my personal favorite protagonists in all of fiction, just for what he stands for. He's anti-violence as much as he can be, but when the people closest to him are hurt, all he wants to do is just get revenge for them. I've always found characters like that to be compelling. Andy Serkis is just insanely good, but also Steve Zahn. He's a really nice, welcomed addition here. He's just simply delightful as Bad Ape. You can't help but just fall in love with him. I talked about how great Dawn of the Planet of the Apes looked visually, but this movie just looks absolutely fantastic, and you can easily frame the shots here too. The action sequences are superb. And I feel like this whole series does such a good job at showing you the different sides of mankind. The ideas of altruism shine throughout. And then you have Woody Harrelson, who is just that evil. But the movie very smartly shows you where he's coming from, what baggage he brings to the table. And that's when you go, wait, I can see where he's coming from. Maybe I would do that too. Maybe I would go that far as well. It's just incredibly well done. I could talk about it for so long. As emotional as it is, I feel like I need to rewatch it more. And that's why it had to come in at number 1. But that is it for my ranking of all of the live-action Planet of the Apes movies. Be sure to let me know, once again, down below in the comments, how would you rank the movies? I would love to see your lists, and I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so you don't miss any further videos. And as always, look forward to more content coming soon. My name is Ben. People call me Meter, and I'll see you guys in the next one.